Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. So we covered the Giant Axe, we covered the Humongous, or the Minotaur, and we might as well cover the last one on this tree of axes, and that is the, well, sorry, not that one, my bad. Where's my other axe? No, you're hiding, sir. The Executioner's Justice. Now, the Executioner's Justice is a very interesting axe because it has a Decrepify proc on it, which means that it is going to do a lot more damage than the stated values. This is an axe that is relatively slow and has some odd effects on it, and I don't really think it tends to be used very often, but that just simply is because it's not the main choice for a lot of characters. Like if you're an axe barbarian, this might be an axe that you're looking at. If you've specifically chosen that you want to use axes, this is an interesting way to build out your character. But if you're not an axe barbarian, you might not be looking at this item to use because you're probably looking at something else, one-handed weapons, or maybe you really want to use a shield, and this just doesn't become an option. Let's go over this item together, and let's talk about what it could possibly be good for. So Executioner's Justice Glorious Axe, which is the elite version, by the way, and unfortunately will not be upgradable. It does 234 to 483 damage in its regular form, with 55 dexterity requirement and 164 strength, which is relatively high. It also has a level requirement of 75, which is pretty high end. Now, the ethereal version has 351 to 725 damage with 45 dex and 154 strength requirement, and the same level 75 requirement. It is a normal class attack speed, and it does have an attack speed bonus on it, which makes it fast attack speed for a barbarian. We also get a 50% chance to cast level 6 Decrepify. So Decrepify is a relatively short duration curse, and so we really need to go take a look at Decrepify to see how long this is really going to last. And it is when you kill an enemy, which means it's not going to happen all the time, but every time you do kill an enemy, we will get a proc. So we are looking at 7-second duration on this curse. And of course, as you know, Decrepify is a very, very powerful curse. Decrepify reduces the speed of the monsters by 50%, it reduces their damage by 50%, and it also reduces the physical resistance of the monster by 50%. So, it is an extremely powerful curse for the purposes of a character who's doing lots of damage. We also need to see if this works while using Whirlwind. So we're going to test this out really quickly, shall we? I don't believe that it does, but since it is a when you kill an enemy and not on striking or attack, it could possibly work. So we're going to just test it real quick, shall we? And of course, I forgot to buff myself up. So far, no proc. So I'm going to assume that it's not working. Let me switch to Berserk real quick. And we immediately got a proc. Immediately. Look at a Wizened Draw dropped on the ground. So as you can see, a pretty good chance that we will get this to drop, but unfortunately this does not work with Whirlwind. So unfortunately we are not going to be able to use this with a Whirlwind Barbarian. Very interesting. Now, we also have the 30% increased attack speed on this bad boy, which is definitely very nice. And we also have an effect of 290% increase to damage, which does vary by 240 to 290%. So a bit of a variance there on the ED. We also have a 33% negative to target's defense, which is going to make it a lot easier for you to hit your targets. I mean, you're not going to have to require as much attack rating. And we have a 25% crushing blow on this particular item, which of course is a 25% chance to deal 25% damage to the monster's current HP and 12.5% to bosses, 10% in PvP. Now, the 6%, the level 6 Decrepify seems to be the real reason why you would use this item. So very specifically, if you wanted to have Decrepify constantly proccing on a weapon, this would be a very good choice. You could use the non-ethereal version and you could potentially put a Shale rune in it, or you could use the ethereal version and you could put a Zod rune in it. Now the ethereal version does have a lot more damage, than the non-ethereal version. And let's take a look and see what kind of difference we're looking at. So just like one-shot him, and one-shot him. Now, the one thing I am noticing about the Decrepify spamming or spawning after the death of the monster, which kind of makes this not so great, is that when the monster dies is when it actually casts the curse, right? So there has to be a bunch of other monsters nearby where that monster died, and it seems to spawn the curse on the monster that died. So if there's nothing nearby, like directly nearby the Decrepify curse, it doesn't do anything. So if you're not using this in a big group of monsters, it doesn't really have any effect. That's a really big downside, in my opinion, because we're talking about a very small radius curse. If this was Amplify Damage, I could see it, because Amplify Damage has a much larger radius, but Decrepify doesn't have a very large radius. It's a very small radius effect. So unless you're fighting in a big group of monsters, the Decrepify is probably not even going to hit the monsters that you're trying to fight. And this is a bit of a downside, in my opinion. Now, it does do a pretty massive amount of damage, and the monsters that are Decrepified are taking just a massive hit. Because you have to think that obviously right now I'm doing, let's say, Concentrate, where I have 4,602 damage, and then the Decrepify is giving me an extra 50% bonus on top of that, which is very nice. And of course, it also counters physical resistance. So if a monster is 50% resistant, I'm doing less damage than what it says there. But then the Decrepify will, of course, take that away. Now, this could be an interesting swap weapon, just simply to try and help you kill a monster that's immune to physical. But because it only procs when you kill an enemy, you would have to have an enemy nearby that you could kill to potentially enable you to use the Decrepify curse, which means that it's not going to be as useful as you think. I think all in all, this weapon needs a little bit of tweaking. I feel like the idea here is solid, that when you kill an enemy, you get a Decrepify curse, and that's great. But the Decrepify curse doesn't have a large enough radius for this. It would be a lot better if they swapped this to Amplify Damage and made it a higher level Amplify Damage so it has a much larger radius. That way, at the very least, when you kill an enemy, you're getting a guaranteed hit of that curse onto something that you're killing. But with the relatively small radius on the Decrepify, it means that a lot of the times when you kill something, the curse just hits nothing, and that's not very useful. The crushing blow on this is actually relatively low compared to other such weapons. If we compared this to, for instance, even one of its predecessors, the Humongous Axe, for instance, which has 33% crushing blow, so it only has 25% versus the 33% on Humongous, and the Minotaur has a crushing blow of 30%. So it is lower on the crushing blow than all of its predecessors, but it does have a very nice secondary effect of giving you Decrepify. I mean, if you are the kind of character who's constantly in big giant battles and there's tons of monsters around, then I guess it would be good. But I just feel like the level 6 Decrepify's small radius, combined with its relatively short duration, make for a rather lackluster special ability. And that's exactly what this is. Executioner's Justice was balanced around the Decrepify, and because the Decrepify doesn't really do exactly what you need it to do, it kind of falls short. Now, granted, if you just wanted to use this as a swap item for the purpose of, swapping in, getting your Decrepify aura, and swapping back to a main weapon that you would otherwise need, I could see that. But there are other choices for that. You could use Reaper's Toll. Now, granted, if you're in a solo self-found and you happen to find an Executioner's Justice, you may not have found a Reaper's Toll yet, and this could be an option for you until that point. I probably wouldn't waste a Zod rune in this particular item. The Decrepify on kill really kind of hurts this. I feel like it really should have been level 6 Decrepify on striking, or level 6 Decrepify on attack, or even level 6 Decrepify on being struck could have been better than on kill. I really don't see the on-kill being super useful, especially in boss fights and stuff where you obviously have nothing to kill. So like, for instance, if I was fighting Diablo, there's nothing around. If I'm fighting Duriel, there's nothing around. If I'm fighting even Bale, the only thing around him is tentacles. All in all, I think it was a very interesting idea, but overall, I think it is not as great as I would have expected. In fact, I'd even say that you'd probably be better off with using, if you really wanted to use an axe, you'd probably be better off with using a Minotaur. The Ethereal Minotaur can be Zotted, and it has some pretty nice damage, as well as the Crushing Blow, which is higher than the Executioner's Justice, the hits blinds target, as well as the slows target by 50% effect, which I feel like, all in all, is way better than the meager offerings of the Executioner's Justice. If you did want to find an Executioner's Justice, I'm sure this is a relatively high-level item, and we can go over to Silo's Pen real quick, and we can take a look and see how we could find this item. So let's go and pop open Silo's Pen, and we're going to look for Executioner's Justice. We're going to pretend we have about 150% magic find, and we're going to look at bosses first. So we've got very, very few bosses. So this is a very high-level item. So we're looking at Bale in Hell, Neelathak in Hell, and the Rancid Defilers. If we go to Super Uniques, very short list again. So we're looking at Knockmel the Cursed in the Throne, Bartok the Bloody, Kalenzo the Annihilator. Doc Farron in Bloody Foothills apparently has a very, very small chance, as well as Frozenstein in the Frozen River. Lister the Tormentor, Neelathak, Pindleskin, Sharp Tooth the Slayer, Snap Chip, Shatter, Thrush Socket, and Ventar the Unholy. Not a lot of good choices there, and I'm going to tell you, I can already tell right away that I already know what the areas are. Without even looking, it's going to be all the 85 zones. So we're going to be looking at, like, you know, Worldstone Keep, Ancient Tunnels, Claw Viper Temple level 2, all these level 85 zones, the Disused Fane, the Disused Reliquary, Drifter Cavern. These are all level 85 zones, or most of them are, and this is why you're going to need to go to a level 85 zone. There's the Pit. We also have the Mausoleum. In general, when it comes to these items, these higher level items, you're looking at a lot of level 85 zones like Worldstone Keep, Throne of Destruction, Sewers level 2, as you can see here. There are some zones in here that are like level 84, I'm noticing, like Sewers level 1, but that one's actually going to be changed to level 85 soon. So interesting. And you can see a little bit of a rare item, and unfortunately, not really the greatest item. As always, I do appreciate it when you guys and gals watch my videos, even when we are talking about the execution of justice. And as always, keep watching.